You know, for the longest time, it felt like science and spirituality were moving in opposite directions. Physics gave us this beautiful, predictable clockwork universe, but in doing so, it kind of pushed the idea of God further and further away. But what if? What if the strangest, most mind-bending discoveries of modern physics are actually opening up a new conversation? That's what we're diving into today, how quantum field theory is giving us a whole new language to think about the divine.
Okay, so let's just frame the big shift right here at the start. The old classical way of seeing things, it gave us a universe made of separate, solid things. Think of them like cosmic billiard balls. And God was the one who set it all in motion from the outside. But the quantum view, it's a completely different picture. We're talking about a vibrant, humming cosmos that's woven from invisible, connected fields. And that simple shift, well, it opens the door to seeing divinity not as something outside of reality, but as the very fabric of reality itself. This is the huge idea we're going to unpack.
All right, here's the plan. First, we're going to look at how that old clockwork model created a bit of a rift with faith. Then, we'll get into the really cool stuff. 3 revolutionary ideas from quantum physics: vibrating fields, the wild creativity of empty space, and the fact that the universe is one interconnected whole. And finally, we'll see how all of this comes together to give us a brand new, powerful language for some of humanity's most ancient questions.
So for a long, long time, Newtonian physics was king. It gave us this incredible picture of a clockwork universe. Everything was mechanical, predictable. It was a massive achievement, right? But it also created a huge problem for theology. God became the first mover, this cosmic watchmaker who wound everything up at the beginning and then just stepped back. And as science explained more and more, that space for God, what people called the God of the gaps, it just kept getting smaller and smaller.
And then, the quantum revolution happened. Now, let's be super clear about something right up front. Quantum field theory, or QFT, does not prove God. That's not what science does. But what it does do, and this is so important, is it offers a completely new set of tools, a whole new way of thinking that allows for a much richer, more profound conversation between science and spirituality than we've had for centuries.
So let's jump into our first big idea. And this is a major mental shift. We have to move away from thinking about reality as being made of tiny, separate things, and start seeing it as something more like a grand cosmic symphony of waves. This is the absolute heart of QFT. The most basic thing in the universe isn't a particle, it's the field. I want you to imagine an electron field that stretches out everywhere through all of space and all of time. What we call an electron isn't a little speck in that field, it's just a tiny ripple, a little vibration of the field itself.
Let's just walk through that. So, step 1, picture this invisible universal field just sitting there, permeating everything. Step 2, a little burst of energy comes along and hits one specific spot, causing the field to vibrate, to get excited. And step 3, that vibration, that little focused ripple of energy, that's what we see and measure as a solid, distinct particle. The particle isn't the real stuff. The field is the real stuff.
And this is where it gets fascinating, because this idea finds these incredible echoes in ancient spiritual thinking. You look at Hinduism, and there's Brahman, the single underlying reality from which everything we see emerges. In Taoism, the Tao is that formless source of all things. QFT gives us a modern, scientific way to talk about this. I mean, if you think of divinity as the grand sum of all these fields, then it's not some external being. It becomes the very substance of existence itself. And we're just temporary expressions of it, like individual waves on one single universal ocean.
Okay, our second big idea from QFT is one that completely flips our understanding of nothing on its head. In the old physics, a vacuum was, well, it was just empty space. Boring. But in the quantum world, the void is where all the action is. And this sets up a really amazing contrast. The classic idea of creation from nothing, creatio ex nihilo, pictures it as this one-time event way back in the distant past out of absolute nothingness. But the quantum view is totally different. It's all about a continuous emergence from what we call a fertile vacuum. In this picture, creation isn't something that just happened. It's something that is happening all the time, everywhere. And why is that? Because the quantum vacuum is literally buzzing with energy. It's a direct result of the uncertainty principle, which basically says you can't know everything about a field at once. This fundamental fuzziness allows energy to be borrowed from the vacuum for tiny, tiny moments. And in those moments, pairs of virtual particles pop into and out of existence constantly. So you see, the vacuum isn't an empty stage. It's the engine of reality itself, the fertile ground from which our universe is constantly bubbling forth. And
Again, this scientific idea resonates so deeply with mystical traditions. In Kabbalah, you have Ein Sof, the infinite divine essence before anything exists. In Buddhism, you have Shunyata, or emptiness, which isn't nothingness, it's a state of pure potential. The quantum vacuum gives us this amazing new metaphor, divinity as a divine womb, as the ongoing process of creation. In this view, God isn't a noun, God is a verb.
All right, this third and final concept is, well, it's maybe the most mind-bending of them all. It takes our most fundamental assumption about the world, that things are separate from each other, and it just shatters.
Even Einstein couldn't quite get his head around this one. He called it spooky action at a distance. It's this phenomenon called quantum entanglement, where two particles become linked, and once they're linked, whatever happens to one instantaneously affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. We could be talking across the room or across the galaxy. There's no signal traveling between them. They are, somehow, still one thing.
So what does this spooky connection really tell us? It reveals that the universe isn't just a collection of separate parts. At its most fundamental level, it is a single, deeply interconnected, holistic system. The feeling of separation that we all experience every day, it seems to be an illusion of our big macroscopic world.
And this, of course, resonates profoundly with a core teaching of basically every spiritual tradition, the illusion of the separate self. Think about the Buddhist idea of anatta, or no self, or the Christian mystic Meister Eckhart talking about the total unity of the soul with God. Entanglement gives us a scientific framework to even begin thinking about these ideas, like a universal consciousness. And this has a huge ethical dimension, right? If we are all fundamentally one, then compassion isn't just a nice sentiment, it's a reflection of reality. Harming another person is, in a very real sense, harming the whole, harming yourself.
So, let's pull all these threads together. We've looked at three core ideas from quantum field theory that give us this powerful new vocabulary for grappling with some of life's oldest and deepest questions.
Let's just quickly recap these three massive shifts. First, focusing on fields over particles lets us see divinity not as some outside force, but as the immanent fabric of reality itself. Second, the fertile vacuum reframes divinity not as a single past event, but as the continuous, ongoing process of creation. And third, entanglement gives us a scientific echo for that ancient spiritual wisdom of universal interconnection.
And I really have to say this one more time because it's so important. None of this proves God. Science and faith are different ways of knowing. But what quantum field theory has done is it's completely dismantled that old, cold, mechanical worldview that created such a divide between them. It has replaced the idea of a distant, clockwork God with a vision of the divine that is vibrating, interconnected, and constantly bubbling up from the very heart of the quantum cosmos.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. This isn't about science proving religion, or religion trying to dictate science. It's about them discovering a new shared language, a language of fields, of potential, of deep interconnectedness. And so the big question for all of us is this: if these two great human endeavors can finally start to share a language, what incredible new conversations become possible?